Welcome back. If you recall, at the end of our last video, we were just about able to make our very basic inventory system save and load consistently. And so the next step is to gradually sort of develop our, our inventory so that it has a couple more features. It's not quite so basic, and saving and loading all those features. So I actually did a little bit of work on it last night, and I can show you that now. It's not quite finished, and I don't know why these things are freaking out a little bit, but I think when the saving and loading is done, perhaps I ought to move on to doing the loading screen, because that, I think, is what we just saw, is all the assets getting loaded in. But now, the new feature that I've added is that we can pick up an item and have a little picture next to it. And so the steel sword is the green picture, and the iron sword is the red picture. Let's try that again. Go the other way around now. Pick up the iron sword with the red picture. Pick up the steel sword with the green picture. And as you can see, they're a little bit not aligned with one another. So the first thing I'm going to do today is try to get these pictures to align neatly with the text. And I'll show you a little bit about how I was able to do that. It's kind of confusing, but I'll do my best. Only confusing in the sense that we have to adjust multiple things. And I'm not using this. This was an experiment. But let's have a look at the inventory itself. So, if we go into, as you can see quickly, we have the inventory list, and then we have this list. And I think I need to get them, they appear to be perfectly aligned. So, yeah, I think it's just the height or something of the widgets needs to be exactly the same. But, if you look here, yeah, icon list, item list, so it's not in here. If we go add, if we click on the add item to list, we have this item icon, which is a texture 2D. So that was something that I've added. And let's look at some of the other widgets. So let's open a bunch of them. I'll show you this one as well. Compare it with item slot. I'll have to adjust these two as needed. I don't think I use this one. No, I do. So on pickup item, we need to add an output called item icon, which is texture 2D. And on the BPC inventory, this one is taking those two, because it's, I don't think it's that one. I'm not sure. That's why I'm saying it's a little confusing. But we have the item icon, and when the item gets added, it takes add item to your list, which includes a reference to a 2D item. And yes, so we pick up item, because we added, so we can see it here, and we can see it here. So this is pickup item, and this one is probably going to be that add item to inventory, I think. So this needs a component of type texture 2D, which is referenced here, and is put into the return output here. And then I guess the last one is actually the player character. Yeah. So when we press E, which is when we pick up an item, creating an inventory, setting it to be the widget, adding it to the viewport, setting the visibility, and we're getting that item that we're standing over, we're adding that to the array, which is our inventory. And in the loop body, we run the pickup item, which is pickup item, and that takes item icon. And then this runs add item to inventory, which I think is which one is that? That's what I mean. It gets a little bit complicated because we're working with so many here. So once we add that one to the inputs here, that's right. So in this one we added the 2D, texture 2D as an input. And we're setting it there. So that's pretty much it. I haven't done any save load stuff, which means, if I am correct, we should be able to save and load the items in the inventory, but I think we're going to lose the pictures. They should just be white pictures when they come back. Yeah, they're just blank images, because it doesn't know what image to set it to. So it loads an image, but it loads an empty image. And we have to set what texture these images are. So I think these just need to have their height adjusted to be aligned with the height of the let me show you. So item slot, item name. This widget has a height, and let us anyway, I'll figure it out. But basically I need this thing to be of an exact height, which I can see is 38.48, and this one is 48. So let's try very quickly, because we do have image size right here. Let's go to 38.48. 38.48. And just for sake of clarity, keep it a nice box. And now let's see what happens. Are they going to align properly? Yes, I believe so. Yes, wonderful. So you can see it's a little bit squished, and I think that's because it tries to fill the box. So it maintains the height, but it stretches the width to fit the width of our thing. So if we go to our inventory designer and we set this one size, there it is. It's not quite what I want. We'll try to get it as close to it as we can. Oh, so close. Okay, so that's almost about the right size now. So we shouldn't see much stretching now. It should basically look the same. But I think you get the idea. Oh no, I would say that that's worse. Interesting, very interesting. So I'm going to have a play around now. I'm going to try and get those to align neatly, and then also have those images, because let's look at our, so our save load just has a reference to a array of strings, which are obviously what is populating this list, but this list is being populated with an array of, maybe I need to just adjust this one as well. Cool, so that can just 0, 0, 0. So now I'm just going to make sure that these things are nicely aligned. But yeah, this is an array of images, and this is an array of strings. And so when we set string, we also need to set image icon, which obviously is fairly straightforward, because I think when we re-add items to the list, we do just run add item to list, or add item to inventory, I think is the one. So we'll just need to, yeah, save those referenced images and then input them over here. but it'll be in our saving and loading section, which is right here. So yeah, for each of the ones in here, add item to inventory. Here we go. Right here, it's blank. So we need to somehow figure that out. I'm not really sure how I'll do it, but wish me luck. Okay, welcome back. It's been a while, and it looks like I've made very small progress because all I've been able to do is get them perfectly aligned with one another. But how was I doing that? Well, it is complicated, but I think as we go forward and we begin to save things, because I'm not sure if any of the saving works, I might have to go over it all again. But basically, let's start with save and load. Okay, so we're saving the string of item names. So these are the names of our items, and we have something called BPW MySlot, saved inventory slots. So BPW MyItemSlot is a widget which contains both an item icon and a text block, and they're both variables. So when we look at BP item, when we pick up the item, we print item name, which comes from item slot. And when we return, item name, item icon, item slot. So item slot is our BPW, and this is a texture 2D, and this is a string. So right here, when we're adding the items, yes, so this is us. No, this is actually the save function, which I haven't completely finished. In fact, I didn't even test this yet, because I haven't looked at the loading portion of it. But if we come over here, when we press E, we are setting our inventory widget, its visibility, blah blah, all the same so far. Pickup item now takes an item name, an item icon, and an item slot. And basically, item name and item icon are things that exist within item slot. So these all get sent to the add item to inventory, which I guess is in VPC. Yes, add item to inventory, which has these three things in it. And they get added. And we set the item icon, item slot, item name, respectively. And yeah, even pickup item has a string, a texture, and a slot. So the slot is the thing which contains the string and the texture, because originally they were separate widgets, and so trying to size them together to get it all looking nice, I can just move all this stuff around now. You know, like I can just change things in here, and it is this whole object that gets added into our list, if that makes sense. So I'm pretty happy. Let's just experiment a little bit, because I haven't really looked at saving and loading anything yet. I think it might be completely broken, but let's find out. Yeah, did I save? Save. Load. Oh yeah, I've totally broken. Our saving and loading is not working at all right now. But that's okay, because I haven't looked at that. I was just looking at trying to change this into one rather than being separate things, and then having the things inside here getting updated accordingly, which it is doing. So now I'm going to go and make sure that both the text and the image are saving in the inventory, and then I'll come back to you. Okay, a couple of hours later, and I can confirm that we have an empty inventory. We'll pick up one item, see the item looking nice, save, and then load. and it's still there. So we quit, continue, and it's still there. And then we'll add the next item, and we'll save, and we'll load, and it's still there. And we'll quit, and we'll continue, and it's still there. And very quickly, let's do it in the reverse order. So we got iron and then steel, save, load, iron, and then iron. Very interesting. So not quite there, but it's a mess right now. It's pretty complicated. I'll be back when I've got this working. I'm so sad. I thought it would work properly. Well, let me see. Can I recreate that? Did that happen the first time? So steel, iron, save, load, steel, steel. Okay, I didn't notice that the first time. Because I'm too excited. Having so much fun. Yeah, once it's all working, I'll show you, because I don't want to like go through the mess with you. But anyway, we'll be back very soon. Okay, welcome back. I had a nice little rest, a little think, and I thought it would actually be really simple, and it wasn't as simple as I wanted it to be. But it was definitely way more complicated than it needed to be. But there was just one step, one thing I didn't understand about arrays that I sort of do now. And in the case we're using the for each, I only need to use the for each once, obviously. I mean, it wasn't so obvious to me at the time, but anyway, blank inventory. We have 3 iron swords here, we have a bronze and a steel sword. So we're going to pick up all of them. And we have the steel, red, the blue, bronze, and the green iron. Save. Load. There it is. Just look at that again. Yep. And we'll just do it in a different order. So I actually forget what the order I did it the last one in was. But anyway, we'll try and mix these ones up so they're not all next to each other. So now red, green, blue, green, green. Save. And we can see the list up there briefly. And then yeah, red, green, blue, green, green. And the names are all what they're supposed to be. So let me show you, because it's actually not that complicated. I can explain it. That's the thing. As long as I'm able to understand what's going on, it's wonderful. So over here we have our destroying all the world items that are not supposed to be in the world. Then we get our saved inventory slots, and I'm not really sure if I need to do this step because I originally had it working just using the item names. But I thought, no, I put this thing in here, I want to have it clean, so it's here. This is an array of saved item slots. And we go through each of these and we add an item to the inventory, because whenever we load the game, we're always creating a new inventory that's completely empty. We just want to read what items are in the saved inventory and add whatever items are. So I don't need to be checking are they in there or not, because I sort of know that they won't be. And what I wanted was to have array element 1, array element 2, array element 3. But obviously this is only one array, and one array has one element. So how do I get these and turn these to accept this? And it is just the get node. But it's like, get it from what position? Because obviously each of these, they all have a position on the list, right? So as long as we're getting our name and we're getting our picture from the same position that we're getting our original slot. So we're adding an item to the inventory, and this item is of type slot, of index 0, and at the same time we want to know, well, what's the picture, what's the name going to be, and so we just get those pieces of information from their respective arrays. And how do we know where to get them from? We have the array index of the original one. So when we add slot number 0, we put it in and we get the name and the picture from slot 0. And so that's keeping everything neat and tidy. It's pretty clean looking now. I'm quite happy with this solution. It's pretty neat, I think. It's not as messy as the other one was. Yeah, so happy with that. I'm going to go have some lunch now, and then I do still need to go out and do one more thing, and then when I come back, we'll look at thinking about what other sort of features we might add, because now I can create different items and I can give those items different names and different icons, and they can all save and it'll remember where they are in the inventory. Yeah, so I'll talk to you about it later. Okay, welcome back. I'm going to talk a little bit about my plans for the rest of today, because all my other business has been taken care of, so we're going to take a look at what's going on in here. We don't have anything to fix, it's all working as you saw just before, but I can show you, actually, why not? Just give me a sec. Let's open the level up. So what we're going to do is take our 5 items. We're going to copy and paste. So in the situation where we have many items, what do you think is the problem? And what do you think is the solution? Because this is what we're going to be dealing with today. For the rest of today, at least, we're going to try and tidy it up. So here it is. And it's all looking pretty groovy. But let's say that we play the game for some time and we start picking up many different items. All fine. I don't think we're going to get there, actually. I don't think I gave myself enough items to do it with, because they're quite small on the list. Basically, if I want my box to end here, it'll just keep going and it'll go off the screen, and there's no way for me to scroll through to find items that are inside this very big list. Let's just save that. Oh no. Anyway, I'm pretty sure it'll all work just fine. So, yeah, that's what we're going to be doing now. Whenever we add items, they get added to a list, and the list is a vertical box. And so what we want to do is actually wrap this vertical box inside of a scroll box. And a scroll box will do exactly what we want it to, I believe. And then from there, what are we going to do? So I'm actually going to add some more variables to my items, because we have different types of items. Let's say that we have weapons, and we have potions, and we have armor, and we have keys, all kinds of items. Different types of items. And right now they're not getting organized alphabetically, they're just getting ordered in the order that we pick them up in. So it's not going to look great, basically. Put it simply, it's not going to look very nice. So what I want to do is actually check. When we add an item to the inventory, we're going to ask ourselves, what type of item is this? Because if it is of type 0, I'm thinking of just using integers, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 for the different types. If it's of type 0, put it in the list. If it's of type 1, put it into list 2 and list 3 and so on. That's my plan, at least. We'll see what happens as we go through it. But what I'm trying to do is we look at Oblivion's inventory system, which is not amazing, but there was a mod to it that did kind of try and make it a little bit neater. Basically, I think the problem with it was that people thought the pictures were too big. So in here, you'd be able to see, okay, so all the books are in this section, all the keys are in this section. And we can scroll through all the sections over here, or we can look at specific sections here. And this is kind of a nice one. It's a little bit neater. It's not quite like that one. So something like this is what we're going for. You know, when you look at the full list, we're going to have the list that is type 0, the list that is type 1, the list that is type 2, and so on. And then when we click on these, we'll be able to collapse all of the types that are not of the type we want to be viewing. So that we should be able to have a system that's a little bit like this inventory, is what I'm hoping for. Because we just had that scroll wheel, and then we need to add a type variable, so each item has a type that it's associated with, and I'm going to have to make headers for each of those. But I'm pretty sure I'm just going to have, so I'm going to have a scrolling box, and inside the scrolling box I'm going to have this vertical list, and just above the vertical list I'm going to have the header, so type 1, and then we'll have another vertical list, type 2, and another vertical list, type 3. And so as items get in there, they'll all get put into their respective lists, and it'll all stay within that box because we'll have a little scrolling wheel here. We'll be able to scroll up and down. So that's the plan. Sorry for rambling too much. Yeah, wish me luck. Okay, it's not pretty, but it does work. Let me just go pick up all the items quickly. You can imagine that we are looting the dungeon, and we will not be able to leave because we won't be able to fit everything in the backpack. So yeah, I don't like this. This little padding at the top here is a little strange, but that's what we're talking about right there. So that's step 1. Step 2 is going to be make these item type 1 and have a header, and then have a header for the different types. So we should be able to see a few headers with nothing inside them. Hopefully there'll be a little gap between them as well. But you know, I don't really understand padding very well, and I don't really like this shadow effect either. But once I have a background and things, it'll come together. So yeah, that's the scroll box, but I haven't really changed anything. We're still just adding items to the list, as was in the original tutorial that I followed, but we've now wrapped it inside of a scroll box. So yeah, in case you wanted to know that, that's that. Let me show you. Yeah, so our list is still there, but we have a scroll box now. So I guess that's probably why it doesn't. But you know, this kind of confuses me. Let's see what that looks like. I should really save after I pick up all the items, because then when I load the game, they'll all still be there, but their presentation will be different. So this is still kind of doing the same thing. So I think it's okay that it looks like that in the viewport, but we basically still have the same effect going on. We have a little gap at the top here, and a little gap at the bottom. But that's okay, because you know, this might be where my header goes. So yeah, I'll see you all shortly. Okay, kind of a silly mistake, but obviously I was tweaking with a bunch of things over time. So this one, I think this one, it's no, this one. This here, this was 0.8. So that was why there was a gap that was increasing every time. So if we have a look at it now, all the items are type 1, because we haven't added any types yet, but they're nice and directly underneath. And then we have type 2, which is where those items would be. And still we have the shadow, but that's okay for now. Let's just look at it in a new game. So type 1, type 2. So ideally I'd have a little gap between these two, which can probably be done with padding. But that's working the way that I wanted it to. And these ones are going to have an image as well, so they're going to be similar to this one. We'll have a picture, call it by the name. Well, they'll probably have two pictures, to be honest, to make it pretty. You know, it'll get there, we'll make it pretty eventually, but we've got to get everything working first. So yeah, next thing I'm going to do is add a variable type to each of these, and make sure that variable type controls which list it gets added to. And when that's all working, you know what comes next. We're going to make sure that all saves properly, but that should not be too difficult. It should be pretty straightforward. So I'll see you soon. Okay, probably about 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes later. No saving implemented yet, but the steel sword, and then we have these two, which are paired together. So as you can see, our steel sword is type 1, and then I've paired together the bronze and the iron sword as type 2, just for testing. And that's looking good. So the workflow is alright, you know, we can have a few different items, few different lists. Let me show you how it's working, because anybody who followed that other tutorial who wants to expand on it, I'm thinking maybe I'll like tidy everything up when I'm done, and like maybe start from scratch and do it as a tutorial, just so it's a little bit cleaner, because I do a lot of rambling about my game as well. So here we have item type, and item type is an integer, and I've not added it here yet because this is important for the saving stuff, so I will do that at some point. But basically when the item gets added to the list, it comes with a type. Same over here, it has a type, and in the player, when we pick up an item, we need to know the item's type. And inside item type, it's important that it is exposed, because then over here, when we're making our items, we can select them and we can, let's set that one to type 0 again, because there's only the two right now, there's 0 and 1. So now we should have the bronze sword will be type 2, and the steel and iron should be type 1. Good, good. But let me show you. What I was supposed to show you is in inventory. So here now we have list and list 1, and we just have text blocks in between them. And on our graph, we add item to the list and we take the item's type. And when we create it, we branch and we say if it is 0, add it to the list. If not, if it's not 0, let's ask ourselves, is it 1? And there might be a better way to do this, but I imagine I'm not going to have more than like 10 types, and so I can just keep building this stack vertically, because it is just that, basically copy and paste that up and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the false will go into the next one, and so on, because the false goes into here and the true goes into here. And then when we add the child, it gets its text and its image set. So all that stuff is the same. This is all the same. It's really just this bit here where we add a check. Is it equal to 0? Is this equal to 0? Because if it is, let's put it into the first list. If it's equal to 1, let's put it into the second list. And so on and so forth. So I might take 5 minutes. Have a little rest, hang out for a little bit, because I'm getting kind of tired, but you know, I'm happy. I'm happy with the progress of what we are doing, because it's starting to look neat and tidy, and we can have many items and we can neatly scroll through them. So I want to add more types, but before I actually add more types, I'm just going to save, because yeah, you know, do the saving and loading system so that the types are correctly returning as they ought to. And then once that's done, we really just expand this section out with more types, and then we, you know, give the types, give them all proper names and proper icons, and you know, start making it look a little bit more pretty, because obviously that is the final goal of this, is that it all has to sort of look really nice. Like I kind of want this to be centered. I don't know, a lot of stuff might change in terms of presentation, but the underlying functionality won't change. The underlying functionality is what we're working with right now, and yeah, thanks for watching. I will come back to you after my break, and once I've done some saving and loading, and maybe I've tidied things up a little bit, then I'll come back and show you how it all went for today. Alright, see you soon. Okay, I think this should be the last recording of today, because I'm getting a little bit burnt out. I might be reinvigorated tonight, uh, but if I'm not, I'm just going to wrap it up in this one so that I can edit and publish it, and there's always tomorrow. But let me show you where I'm at. So we got a sword, we got a potion, we got a book. And their sizing inside the inventory is not really ideal. But let's say we've gone and picked up a sword, a book, and an item, and a potion. Underneath weapons, we see the steel sword. Underneath potions, we see the small health potion. And then underneath books, a book of jokes. That's a little joke from me. And yeah, if I added more items, we'd be able to scroll through, as we saw. Let's do that real quick. Why not? Because you guys don't mind they're all the same item duplicated over and over, because you understand that we're just testing and developing. But I wanted to make it a little bit prettier, and I wanted to, yeah, name those different categories and stuff so that you can see what I'm trying to get at here. So let's go and pick up all the items. Oh, sorry, not bad. That's better. So now let's run to all the jokes, because we love jokes. So funny. And all the swords, because we love killing things. And all the potions, because, yeah, killing things is tiresome. So now we have all of our swords, and we have no armor, and we have all of our potions, and we have all of our books, and nothing miscellaneous. So what's next? Maybe getting rid of that little shadow would be nice. And then we're going to have some buttons, so that this button is going to display what you see here, and then this button is just going to hide everything except this and anything in here. So this and anything in here, so this title and any item that's in here, they should all get collapsed, which means that they won't take up any space and they won't be seen. So we won't be able to scroll, because our inventory will end here. Unless we had lots and lots of swords, then we could still scroll. But yeah, it's getting there. And then once I can like shift through all the items, that's when I'm going to make it so that we can actually click on an item. And we should populate a space with a string of description about it, maybe a nice picture. So we'll have a simple reference photo there, and then a slightly bigger picture here, followed by a description, and then underneath the description we'll say equip, or we'll say drop. And equip won't do anything just yet, but we'll try and get the drop button working. So let's get it so that we can click through and collapse the various titles. And once we can do that, then we're going to have so let's think of it in steps now. So step 1, 2, 3, 4 is get all these. So step 1 really is to have these buttons working so that we can collapse them. Step 2, we can click on the sword and we can read its description with a picture there. And then step 3 will be a button so that we can drop the items. And then we're on our way. I don't think there's too much left really with an inventory, except obviously making the whole thing beautiful. Obviously you could go crazy, you know, you can add sub-menus. Like I was looking at Oblivion's one, and inside miscellaneous they separate it into the soul gems and into the keys. So that would be nice, but it's just going to make the whole thing kind of, you know, right now it's not too bad because it's just 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we kind of flow through. Not the most efficient way of doing things, but it works and it's stable. Oh, and I didn't show you, my apologies, because I wanted to show you how, but I didn't realize I didn't actually show you. So in our save load we have an array of item types. Inside of our item we have an item type, and this item type is here. I think I showed you that one already. I think the only change that I really made was, so I added all of those, but then BPC inventory. So I had to add this step right here, and this gets this array of item types, which is this one. So this has an array of item type, which gets added to here when we add an item to our inventory, and that gets saved. And then in here, when we are saving the game, we get our saved inventory types, because everything that we save has to exist in here. So we get our saved once, and we basically set that to be equal to our, there we go. So we get our inventory, and here we have our inventory item types. So that is this. That is this. And we are setting our saved inventory type to become this. And that's how all the other ones worked. Didn't really have to do anything different. And loading was a total breeze. All we did was add another get. So when we're going through each one, we're going to get this one, and we're going to input it here. And just to show you that it does work. Because we have different item types now. So let's just get a random number. We don't need to get all of them. So here you can see 2 swords, 2 potions, 2 books. Well, we'll go 3 swords, just so that it's a little bit different. And that's the thing I want to see as well, is that save. So it doesn't always refresh to the top, it kind of just goes to wherever we left it at. But I think that probably won't save. I think this will probably reset to the top, which I think is fine. I don't think that's a big deal. What we're going to do now is, we'll just quit, and we'll continue the game. Yeah, so that jumped to the top again, but I think that's totally fine. I don't really need to save the position of this. And it would be nice actually to reset the position of that when we press I, just so that there's consistency there. But as you can see, we've saved and loaded, and we still have 3 swords of weapon, 2 potions of potion, 2 books of book. So that's all saving nice and smooth that time, because I'm starting to get a handle on it now. That was why I started with just the icon, because I wanted to know if there's more than one piece of information on this thing, how can we consistently save it? And as you saw, it is through going through each item one by one and adding the item, but not going through it multiple times, just going through it for one time and getting all the information from the other areas and adding them to the index. So any other information we add, it'll all kind of go down here, and we'll have some more gets here, and they'll all plug in to what will sort of fill up over here. You know, like how much does the thing weigh? How much value is the thing worth for selling? I'm trying to think of what else there is. Oh, how many of the item we have. So that's something I haven't touched upon yet, is that eventually I need to stop using the base item, because as you see, these are all base item, base item, base item, but actually we'll never use base item. We should just be using the children of base item. And that's going to be when I do the drop function. So when I'm making the, let me get my, yeah. So when I make the drop function, when we drop an item, something that's going to have to be attached to the item that we make, there needs to be a reference to an existing blueprint. And if the existing blueprint is just generic item, we're going to have to go back and go generic item with this and this and this, like this type of sprite, this type of, and that's going to be really annoying. So it'll be really nice to just package each one. So if we go here real quick, let's see if we can do it together, because we like teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work. So we'll go to inventory, we'll go to BP item. Can we create child blueprint class. So we're going to call this BP item sword, just for testing. And this one will have, yeah, this can have its own item name, its own icon, so it'll have all of its own information that's unique to it, but it also has this whole thing. And so when we are dropping an item, we just get a reference to the child actor that we picked up. Now that I'm talking about it, I don't actually know if it's going to be that straightforward, but obviously we'll get there. Let's try and stay focused. So what are we doing? One more time, let's just go over it. We're going to add buttons for filtering so that we can just view some of the things instead of seeing all the things all the time. And then we're going to make them interactive so we can read a description. And when we can read a description and we can select this one or this one or this one, we can then say, I want to drop this one. And that's when we're going to have to figure out how to create an item of the class that is somehow referenced inside of this item. But yeah, like I was saying, because this one has its own name and things, and all the copies of this will have this, one of the variables in this can be a generic object, like an actor. And which actor? Well, it's going to be different depending on the item. So for this item, the actor will be this. Like, it'll be itself, basically. Because this should all be stored inside memory, and so we can just tell it to create that item. I think. We'll find out. Anyway, that's enough chit-chat from me. Thanks everybody for watching. Hope you have a lovely time. I'll see you later.